With some games, you end up waiting longer than you think you're gonna wait. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanx, 15 big games that have been delayed. At number 15, it's Hogwarts Legacy, an action RPG set in the Harry Potter universe, but in the late 1800s. It's a pretty interesting looking title where it looks like they kind of want to reimagine the Harry Potter universe from a different perspective. Obviously, it doesn't go back too far. The late 1800s is post-industrialization for the most part, but you still have a much more prominent influence of Victorian stuff. So I think it could be a pretty unique look at this world. It's also a really good looking game in terms of visuals, and I think the introduction of magic into an action RPG with such a familiar world without leaning on the main characters from it, or even the time period or general feel of the movies, it could work really well. It could also be a huge bomb because everything that's familiar about it might not be there. We'll see. It's coming out on pretty much everything, but it got delayed to 2022. And at number 14 is, of course, Dying Light 2. There's no way we can talk about delayed games without talking about Dying Light 2. This is a game that's made some big promises, and I would suggest that that's the core of the delays. If they do manage to deliver on what they're attempting to do, it could potentially be an extremely good game. But the complex narrative structure they've proposed probably makes it very difficult to deliver on all that, and I am, again, not shocked that they're delaying this game until 2022. I do look forward to it though, and I hope everything turns out how they have said it will. Number 13, it is Abandoned. Now, this is a game that has seen so many rumors about being involved with Hideo Kojima or Konami or possibly Silent Hill in some way. And just to be clear, there are a number of things that would work out if it did have something to do with Hideo Kojima. A lot of coincidences. But the studio, Blue Box Game Studios, insists it has nothing to do with him. They released a real-time experience app for PlayStation 5, and it didn't have anything to do with Silent Hill. So I don't know. It is a game that, because of these rumors, has gotten a lot of perhaps hype it wouldn't have otherwise, which makes a delay end up adding to the mystery a little bit more. It was supposedly going to come out this year, but it won't be until some point in 2022. Like, they didn't even provide a release window, so who really knows? At number 12, it's Battlefield 2042, which was originally going to come out a month earlier than it's going to be now. Battlefield 2042 is a multiplayer-only game, so honestly, it's easier to imagine why they would delay this than just needing to complete content. Like, online experiences are very affected by bugs, and apparently the scope of this game is very large, and one can imagine a need to do a lot of extra work on it. Apparently there's going to be news on the open beta though fairly soon, so you might get a chance to play it before then. Obviously not in a finished state, but obviously keep an eye out. At number 11 is Rainbow Six Extraction. Now, this game was actually supposed to come out a few days ago, but it got delayed to January 2022. Now, Ubisoft's reasoning is that they want to be able to do a lot more testing because they want to bring it to quote-unquote its full potential, which is, of course, a clever way of saying the game isn't ready yet. But if there is anything that I have to say about the continuous delays we've seen throughout this year, honestly, I'm refreshed in that I would much rather see games delayed and come out in a better state than get crappier games to conform to a release schedule. Like, in all seriousness, imagine if they delayed Cyberpunk more and made it good before releasing it, cleaned up all the bugs and whatnot. Rainbow Six Extraction is a fairly ambitious co-op game that sounds like Left 4 Dead if you describe it, but if you've played the Outbreak event from Rainbow Six Siege, you probably have a hint as to what it's like. Honestly, we've been talking about this game a while, and it's a pretty interesting looking title that I'm looking forward to playing. And the fact that they're not just plopping out this, oh, it's Siege but with the Parasite, actually putting the work in. It looks good. It's coming out to pretty much everything in January of 2022. At number 10 is the Lord of the Rings Gollum, the Gollum simulator, Tony Hawk's Pro Gollum. We don't actually know exactly what this game's going to turn out to be. My guess is probably an action-adventure game with some stealth element from what we've seen of it. Originally, it was going to be coming out in 2021, but they got a new release agreement, which is delayed it to 2022. It's a really interesting looking game if you looked at footage of it, and you'll apparently be guiding your Gollum character towards a good side or a bad side over the course of it. I mean, we all know where he ends up, so it should be an interesting ride. At number 9 is Horizon Forbidden West, the sequel to the highly successful Horizon Zero Dawn. This is an exciting game because it takes what is, frankly, an extremely impressive game, graphically and mechanically speaking, and puts it on a next-generation console. Considering it looked that good on old hardware, and considering what we've seen of the new one, I think we're in for a pretty great ride. Horizon, of course, has a fun and interesting story, and is extremely fun to play. I'm just interested to see where it goes, and it's not a massive delay. It was coming out holiday 2021, and now it's going to land on February 18th, 2022, which we'll all be looking forward to. And number 8 is Lone Echo 2, the sequel to the Oculus exclusive adventure game set in zero gravity. Basically, you played as an android helping along the only human member of a crew, basically solving puzzles, fixing things, looking into stuff. This game came out in 2017, and it came out to a lot of accolades, and they've been saying that they're gonna have this sequel out for quite a while, and they delayed it from August to quote-unquote later this year. I'm guessing that means next year. Again, it's an Oculus PC exclusive, so for all those interested, that's when it's coming out. And number 7 is Evil Dead the Game, which is kind of a Left 4 Dead style co-op shooter, obviously set in the Evil Dead universe with those extremely well-known and well-liked characters. The delays are coming because they're apparently working on a single-player mode in case you don't have an option of co-op, which I think is a good thing because that's probably how I'll be playing it in all honesty. Other reasons given for the delay are just general polish, making it better for release, which is, again, never a bad reason to delay a game. Apparently they're targeting a release in February, but we don't know for certain because they haven't given a specific date. At number 6 is Stray, a really interesting project that has been kind of off in the background since 2016 or so. A game where you play as a cat in a cyberpunk city where there are no humans, they've been replaced with robots, and basically as it was originally announced as HK Project, was kind of almost an experimental little play as a cat game, but it's expanded considerably. The gameplay looks really interesting because while we've had games that allow you to play as a cat that does cat things, this is probably the most ambitious cat game I've seen. Which might sound silly, but the actual reason that matters is the movement, the traversal, the mechanics that they've established look really actually fun to play. It's one of those games that kind of comes in and out of focus from time to time, and you end up seeing something that goes, wow, that looks like it's pretty fun to play. I wonder when it's coming out. Well, apparently in 2022. At least that's what they said when they showed off the game back in July. And again, it looks great. I do hope we see it because it's actually one that I've wanted to play for quite a while. At number 5 is Crimson Desert, coming to us from Pearl Abyss, the folks behind Black Desert Online. This has been a game that has looked consistently very interesting, but back in July they announced that they delayed the game indefinitely because they came up with new ideas. The game originally started out as an MMORPG, exactly the same as Black Desert Online, but apparently became, over the course of development, something completely different. It's more action-oriented, more adventure-oriented, and to be frank, if they keep coming up with new stuff and it turns out really well, it'll obviously have been worth it. However, obviously, again, that really depends on the finished product. The trailers have looked great, though, and if they are able to execute as much as they're willing to experiment, it's probably going to be something very interesting. At number 4 is Resident Evil Reverse, which is a very interesting title. It's a third-person shooter slash asymmetrical multiplayer game where you play as a human. When you get defeated, you turn into a bioweapon, and then when you get defeated as a bioweapon, you spawn as a human again, and so on and so forth, doing things that accrue you points. Whoever has the most points at the end of the match, that's the winner. It's not based on who kills the most or anything like that. It sounds like an interesting multiplayer game, actually. It was going to be something that came out as a bonus for Resident Evil Village, but it got pushed back from July 2021 to 2022, and at very least, it looks like an interesting try. Obviously, we'll have to reserve judgment for when it comes out, which will be later. At number 3 is Ghostwire Tokyo, a game where 99% of the human population of Tokyo just randomly disappears, and the place is haunted as well. It's an interesting looking game that has had a perhaps more interesting public history with the way the announcement went down and their PR person and all that. They're citing the reason for the delay as wanting to bulk up the game without doing crunch. I mean, they didn't really use that language. They said in their announcement they wanted to respect the health and lives of their employees, but one would hope that means doing it without crunch. So we'll supposedly be seeing that next year on the PS5. It's an exclusive, so that'll be the only place to play it. It is a very intriguing title, though. At number 2 is LEGO Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, which is a LEGO Star Wars game that spans the entire 9-movie series, and that clearly means it is going to be very, very packed with content. The game seems to have really oriented itself towards a more modern aesthetic, having an over-the-shoulder camera rather than a top-down view. I would say this is probably a good choice because it'll keep the LEGO formula fresh. Like, the footage that we've seen from this game shows much better shooting footage, for instance. We don't have an exact date, but 2022 is when we'll be seeing LEGO Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. And finally, at number 1, Gotham Knights, the post-Batman game that adds a full-on co-op mechanic. Anyway, it's got a vague 2022 release date. I mean, this was a game that was going to come out in July of this year, so clearly it is not as far along as they wanted it to be. But I think we're all fairly excited about this one. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is a subscription, so click subscribe and don't forget to enable all notifications. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter @FalconHero. We'll see you next time right here on GameRadar.